Here we are, a brand new year, 2022. We find ourselves in that familiar place, facing an incredible opportunity. Another chance to finally get it right, to be at our best, or to discover new ways to just screw it all up. In this moment, we find ourselves together. We're hoping, praying, doubting, searching for what God may have for us, or sometimes wondering if He even notices us. Wherever you find yourself, whatever you're hoping for, no matter what you've done or where you've been, God is here. His love is uncomplicated, and His invitation to you is simply,
come now, as you are, as you want to be. Are you ready? Are you ready? Come now. Tired, broken, scared, adjusting it. Ready or not, it's alright, take your time, if nothing else, just come. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Now, bring your hopes, your dreams, your doubts, your scars. You ready? You ready? Now, bring your hurts, your fears, your faith, your heart. Are you ready? You ready or not?
There's no place like His presence. There's no time like the now. If you want two or three of us, count 'em in here and now. So He welcomes the broken. He's alright with your past. He's not mad at any one of us, but He waits with open arms, says come. Are you ready? Are you ready? Come now. Leave your inhibitions at the door. Are you ready? Are you ready? Come now. you ready? Are you ready? And come now and bring him praise for what he's gonna do next. Are you ready? Are you ready or not?
Well, welcome to Cedar Creek. My name is Michaela. Whether you're watching online at our Oregon campus or South Toledo campus or in person today, it's so great to be with you. We're starting a new series. It's called At Your Best, and that's our wish for this new year. But before we get into that, let's stand and worship together this morning.
And it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise. Let praise arise. Come on! We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. We cannot survive when we praise you. Got a breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Let faith be the song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be the song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let praise arise. Come on! We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. We cannot survive when we praise you. Oh God, breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Whoa, we praise you. Whoa. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. We cannot survive when we praise you. We've got a breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. People come together, strangers and neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generations, of every nation, of kingdom come. But don't let your heart trouble. Hold your head up, I don't fear evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Oh, let your heart hold your head up. I don't mean evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Opportunity to worship alongside of each other this morning. So let's sing this as one voice. Swing wide. So swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children. Clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. That's right, come on. So swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children. Clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God, His name is Jesus. So swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All His children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God, His name is Jesus. kingdom come.
Let's continue to raise our voices this morning. Who is a great King of glory, seated on high in the heavens? Oh, Jesus, you alone. You are the Lord God Almighty, strong in compassion and mercy. Oh, Jesus, you alone. I've searched the world for a love that could fill my heart. Nothing compares to the wonder of who you are. Holy, all the earth singing holy, all the angels cry holy, Jesus, you alone. Jesus, you alone. You set the stars in the heavens. You set the world into motion. Oh, Jesus, you alone. You breathed life in creation. You walked among your creation. Jesus, you alone. And I've searched the world for a love that could fill my heart, and nothing compares to the wonder of who you are. Holy, all the earth singing holy, all the angels cry holy, Jesus, you alone. Oh, worthy, all creation sings worthy, all the heavens exalt thee, Jesus, you alone. Jesus, you alone. You shed your blood for salvation. You broke the curse for our freedom. Oh, Jesus, you alone. You rose from death with the morning. You'll come again in your glory. Oh, Jesus, you alone. Oh, Jesus, you alone.
Thanks for singing with us. You guys can go ahead and have a seat. The wonders of Jesus show up all throughout our lives, whether that's at work or with our friends or even in the lives of our families at home. And as a church, it's one of our greatest joys to be able to come alongside families and really partner with them throughout all the stages of life, from kids into students all the way into adulthood. And so this weekend is a special weekend because we have child dedications. What that means is it's an opportunity for parents of families to be able to commit to raising their kids in a Christ-driven home and really help them know who God is as they get older. It's also an opportunity for us as a church to commit to partnering with them throughout those stages of life. And so right now, I'm going to invite Mary, our kids director, out onto the stage. She's going to be coming out with our families, and we're going to get to know our families just a little bit more. And then afterwards, we're going to have an opportunity to pray together as a church.
Perfect. Thank you, Spencer. All right, so with us, I have the Shepherd family. I have Jessica and Jason, and this is little Jackson, who just turned a year old last week. So huge shout out to him. Yeah, it was your birthday. He is so cute. All right, so anyways, these guys have been coming since January of 2020, right before the world shut down. And let me tell you, their lives they are getting closer and closer to God, and it is just amazing. So for Jackson, their prayer is for him to be grounded in his faith and to know God and know who he is and to turn to him through everything. They want Jackson to pray first and to go to God with everything and to surround himself with good Christian people.
We are so thankful to have the Shepherds a part of Cedar Creek. And so right now, I'm going to read a statement of dedication. And afterwards, if you guys agree with the statement, all you need to say is, we do. Do you commit to be parents of personal faith, devoted to knowing God and learning to trust him more every day, to receive your child, Jackson, with gratitude and joy, to stay engaged in a life-giving church, experiencing community, and discovering your gifts to make a difference, to lead a faith-filled home that honors God in all thoughts, actions, and relationships, and finally, to raise your child, Jackson, with biblical love, instruction, and discipline? If so, say we do. Well, as a church, this is a great opportunity for us to be able to pray for the Shepherds, and so I'm going to invite you to stand as we get ready to pray for them together. God, thank you for the Shepherds. It is so cool to see this next step that they've put on their heart and to see the way that they honor you in all that they do. We are so excited as a church to be able to come alongside of them and help them throughout all the stages of Jackson's life. God, when times get tough, when we don't know what to do, God, remind us to look to you because your wisdom will help us get through it all. God, we love you. We're thankful for you, and it's in your name that we pray. Amen. Well, can we celebrate the Shepherd family a little bit? Right over there. Thanks for praying with us. You guys can go ahead and have a seat. I love to be part of a church who loves to invest in the lives of families. It is so life-giving. You see, as a church, we love to see families at their best. And so that's why I'm so excited for this brand new series, because we're going to be learning some practical next steps that we can take today to be at our best in the year 2022. So sit back, pull out any notes that you need to use to follow along as we get ready to learn to be at our best together.
You don't realize it yet, but today you made an important decision. And the first thing you're wondering, is this going to be boring? How long is this going to take? Is this going to relate to my life? Because that's how we approach a lot of the situations. But today, I'm inviting you to take a step towards best. Because I think what we all have in common is we want our lives to be better. And here's the thing, even if your life is good, you're like, I still want it to be better, right? But I think, I don't know about you, and maybe you're better at this than I am. Instead of at our best, we find ourselves in this constant tension, this endless battle. You know, we want to be the University of Toledo, but we find ourselves like Bowling Green, okay? You know, that's right, go Rockets. You know, it's like we find ourselves in this place where we want to find the good and we're working to avoid the bad, because when it's bad, it's no fun. Like, it's bad when it's January, 9th, and you're already renegotiating your New Year's resolution, You're including a few like additional clauses to which the resolution does or doesn't apply. Like dry January was great for 3 days, and then it's like, am I sure I really want to do this, Or maybe you arrive for your morning coffee. This happened to me this week, that necessary morning cup of coffee, and you show up and plastered on the drive-through screen is a sorry, we're closed due to COVID. And you're like, okay, it's going to be a long day. Or you're out somewhere, let's just hypothetically speaking, you're sitting in a church service somewhere and somebody coughs or sneezes and the whole room is like, COVID. For those of you that are parents, especially in our Toledo area, you're like the day before you're sending your kids back to school, everybody announces that we're going to extend time off for another couple weeks. It's bad, right? And it starts to churn up all this stuff. In your personal life, you're in a conversation with somebody significant and you send a thoughtful or a responsive text back and you get ghosted for 2 days, or you see those 3 dots pop up and then go away, and then come back, and then go away, and you're like, it's going to be bad. Okay, yeah. Or I don't know where you're watching, but in Northwest Ohio, we had like 4 or 5 days where it was cloudy for so long that the speedometer signs that they have on the road telling you how fast you're going, the battery was dead on those things because the sun hasn't been out. I'm like, oh yeah. This is going to be a long winter. And I know as some of you are thinking, it can be worse than this, because it can. And some of you are there right now. Like, you're kind of laughing, but you're like, I wish it was that bad because of whatever it is that you're facing. Here's the truth. We all want to be at our best. We all want that. But when we look at our lives internally, when we look around, it's like we find ourselves, and it seems like everyone else around us, overwhelmed, overcommitted, overworked, exhausted, anxious, reactive to the world around us, nowhere where we actually want to be. And here's the thing. Some of you are living the life that you thought would make your life better, only to find yourself far from your best, and maybe at your worst. And you're thinking, man, the job, the house, the career, the thing, the stuff I thought, it's got me in the same place that I feel like I've always been. So if that's you, you made a great choice. You made a courageous choice in tuning in today or being here today. And if that's not you, I promise you, somebody in your life, maybe many people in your life, are not at their best. That is where they are at. And now you have an opportunity, because you're here, to play a role in helping them. Wherever you're at, I'm really glad that you're here. We have several people watching online, we have people watching on TV every week, men who are watching at Toledo Correctional. Will you do me a favor and just put your hands together to welcome those who are watching online and on TV, just to say hello, that we see you. We're so glad to spend a little time with you. I really hope that this series is going to be both hopeful and helpful, that it will be practical, something that you can apply to your life, but I believe it is deeply spiritual. And where we need to begin is this challenge of understanding how we get to this place where we want to be at our best, but we're not there. And so the best way for me to kind of dialogue or diagram this is what we want, and this is what we're afraid of, okay? So we find ourselves in this kind of cycle, revolving around like the center of, oh yeah, we're making progress. Oh no, we're not. No, we look for proven ways to diet, to self-help, to psychology, oh no, that lasted a week. Oh boy, we're gonna meditate, and that's gonna make all the difference. And then you may even be turning to God right now, because you know what? A lot of people love Jesus in January. It's like new year, new me, baby. And so if that's you, you're like at church, you're trying this. I'm really glad that you're here. And my hope is that if you spend a few weeks with us, you'll at least make it into February. But there may be more here that adds value to your life. Because let's be honest, sometimes people add church, they add prayer, they read their Bible, they start in the book of Genesis. It's cool for 3 chapters. And then 7 chapters in, you're like, what am I reading? And it's confusing, and it doesn't feel like it. Let me put it this way. Those things can take the edge off bad, but the diets and the stuff, they don't always put us at our best. And so we end up exhausted and defeated, and when everything else doesn't seem to work, we just kind of fall into a life raft, grab an umbrella drink, and ride the lazy river of life, you know? Who likes a lazy river? Anybody like a lazy river? Have you thought honestly about what happens in a lazy river? I just ruin lazy rivers. I can't help it, right? In life, that's kind of how it goes. We strive, and then we fail, and so we adjust, and we strive, and we get hijacked, and so it's easier to just drift, to resign ourselves to going through the motions. So we work, we eat, hopefully something good, we scroll, we sleep, and we repeat. And maybe it's fun for a day or two, a lap or two, but just like a lazy river, you're starting to wonder how many other people have gone to the bathroom in this place, and it's ruining everything. And the truth is, even when I realized that in the lazy river, the thought of getting out, it takes an awful lot of work to get out of the raft and get back in the water and get, you know what I mean? And so pretty soon you just start drifting through life. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but you never drift towards better. You just don't. Oftentimes, you drift to a place that looks like this. Like stunted shrub in the desert with no hope for the future, living in a barren wilderness in an uninhabited and salty land. Who knew that a prophet who existed almost 3,000 years ago could so clearly describe what I feel like many people are experiencing in their inner world today? Maybe it's you, right? In the original language, they don't even put stunted shrubs in the desert. They just put they're like in the destitute. Like no hope, they're stuck, they're suffering. It's a barren, like it's too poor to produce life. A barren wilderness, uninhabited, meaning it feels lonely, like you're the only one. Nobody seems to, it's like you're withdrawn from people. And where does that leave us? Salty. You're hoping for the best, but you're dealing with the routine, what feels like the worst. You started strong, 28-7 in the first half. And then the third quarter hit, Notre Dame gets beat. It's like, this is how life goes. You end up salty. Sound familiar? Does that sound like school for some of you who are students? Like, I don't remember a ton of days where school put me at my best, right? You feel stuck and salty. Does it sound like your job? So I know some of you took a new job this past year. Good benefits, more money, whatever. And you thought, man, it's going to make all the difference. But now you're still feeling stuck and salty like you were in your old job, right? Does it feel like home buying, especially for those of you that bought a new house, like this is going to be our dream home, only to find out you're going to have to put all new plumbing in or a new roof? And what does that feel like? Stuck and salty. It's like no fun, right? Does it sound like your in-laws' house at Christmas, maybe? No, too personal, right? On a serious note, though, for some of you, that sounds like your marriage. That sounds like your family. That sounds like your life. And nobody wants to be here. The truth is, that sounded like me last February. We were approaching 1 year of COVID, and it had been a tough year for all of us. The reality is, man, after a year of people taking a phrase or a statement and turning it into a whole position of whatever, it's like I was frustrated and empty and salty. And plus, in February, in the dark months, long months of winter, I always struggle every year. For me, there's some sort of seasonal, it just has an impact on me mentally. So, normally you can plan a trip away, somewhere warmer, just for a couple days can make a big difference. But there weren't a lot of options when most places were locked down and it was complicated. And so I felt stuck and salty. I felt like I was getting burned out. Have you used that word before? And here's what's embarrassing about this. Is I read about this stuff. Like I have friends. I was in a coaching group with Carrie Newhoff who's written about this, multiple books. We've talked about it. We've talked with me about it. And yet I found myself here. And the truth is that we use this phrase for all sorts of things. Like, I'm getting so burnt out on fill in the blank, right? So maybe it's helpful to get a little clarity. Because on the one hand, we can use burnout to mean, we're tired. And on the other hand, burnout might actually be something very, very serious in your life. So here's a way to think about it. It's not clinical, but it's framework. And I have a feeling this is going to be helpful for some of you. So here's what I would ask. Instead of like checking out like, I'm fine, or instead of getting into an argument with me, what if you just opened your heart and said, God, is there something here that I need to pay attention to? Is there something here that may help me understand where some of my loved ones are at. Let's start with tired. What do I mean by tired? Tired is when you're overworked, you're overextended, you're pushed beyond your healthy limits, and so rest, stopping, ceasing, is what you need. Or you need to replenish, you need to fill back, fuel up again in order to deal with a tired body or tired, right? Or you need to repair something, you need to put back together as originally intended. Usually, when you're tired, this is the recipe. Some of you are here right now, and maybe this is a way to go, hey, are you resting? Are you replenishing? Like refueling? Is there something that needs to be repaired? Because if so, get to work. You can actually begin to engage in some of these things that will lead you to your best. But burnout is different. Burnout is when you're a stunted shrub in the wilderness with no hope for the future. You feel, stuck, salty, withdrawn, isolated. You feel alone. You need more than a weekend away to help with whatever's going on because something internally is off. Something in your soul is damaged. Remember, you are a multidimensional being. And God cares about the holistic you, not just your physical circumstances and what's going on around you. God cares about your mental health. He does. In fact, if you look at a lot of the Bible, a lot of the wisdom that's talked about, that the self-help group uses today, it has roots in what God has said is true about you. He knows you. He's the designer. And a lot of that's rooted in spiritual principles and practices that help bring you to your best. See, tired is typically something physically that's wrong. Burnout is an indicator that something mentally or spiritually needs to be repaired, right? It's more than being tired. And here's where it starts. It starts small. It starts with what I would call Burnout Phase One, where some of you might be today, where you're stuck in just a season, right? That's what you say. You say, oh, if I could just get through Christmas, and we're getting through Christmas, and now you're thinking, oh, if I could just get through the school year, or if I could just get through February, I'm just in a busy season. The truth is, you say that all the time, which means you're not in a season. It's your life. That could be an indicator. I'm not saying you're burnout, but that could be an indicator to pay attention to. Here's another one. Extended time off doesn't help. Don't get me wrong. You love the trip. You love the trip that you're taking, right? It feels really good. But as soon as you get back, you find yourself in the exact same energy place as when you left. It actually didn't refuel you. The rest didn't help you. You're still there. The problem, part of it is that you're too busy to rest, replenish, and repair. Maybe that's why you don't take the extended time off. It's like, I got so much going on. And the truth is, I know how it is with young kids. I got 4 of them. And I know how it is with teenagers. I got a couple of them, and they're busy. They want to be all over the place. And they think there are 6 of me. So I end up on like 4 different gerbil wheels trying to keep them all moving, right? It's exhausting. So you start to say, I don't have time to do the things that I know. So you just keep going. And you can do that for a week, a day, a month, for a little while. But you can't make a lifestyle out of it. Because in order to cope, what do? You start seeking numbing behaviors. It's all of a sudden, TikTok just seems like the easiest place on the planet to sit for 3 days, right? Or binge watching whatever so you don't have to think. You can just be there. Now, if this is where you're not at your best. I think you know it. You probably feel helpless to it. You don't have to stay here, and you're in the right place. Keep leaning in with us over the next few weeks, okay? Because if you do nothing, if you change nothing, it'll probably lead to phase 2 of burnout. Phase 2 is when you sleep, but you're not rested. You're getting 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep, but you're still pulling yourself out of bed and into your day, right? Probably because there's a low-grade depression going on. And sometimes we think of depressed people as like they live in a dark cave at the bottom of the cave and they never come out and eat, right? They're there. And that's true. Some people, when they experience depression, it's a deep, dark place. But it's when you're discouraged, you're withdrawn, you're lonely, you know it's not good, but you try to convince yourself it's not that bad. It happens to me almost every February where it's just, I got this. It just takes extra effort to get through the day. And what happens, what you pay attention to is you're not able to enjoy the good stuff. The stuff that you normally enjoy, time with friends, family, a video, sports, whatever it is, a book, the things that typically replenish you, you can't. And so what do? You frequent the numbing behaviors. You start looking at those things more often because it's the only place you seem to be able to go. The problem is it becomes your go-to. You wake up doing it. You do it before bed. You do it when your friends are around, when your family is around. You take a break from your movie to go and scroll on TikTok. You know what I mean? It's like, and so where that leads is you start fantasizing about leaving. your job. Now, don't get me wrong. I fantasize about driving a bread truck sometimes because it smells good in there, doesn't it? And when the bread truck shows up, everybody's so happy to see you. They don't have an argument about which bread. They're just excited to get bread. It's like there's no debate. I mean, sure, you could make a debate out of whole grain and like white, but the truth is bread. It's good. And so I get it. We all fantasize about leaving our job, but sometimes it turns into like, I just want to get out of here. I just want to leave town. I just want to leave my marriage. I just want to leave. Maybe it'd be better if I wasn't here. Because you're afraid there's no way out if that's you. Don't leave yet. Like, don't quit. Wait. There is a way out. Just like me, you may need to talk to somebody just to help resort through what it is that you're going through. Last February, I started to recognize some of these patterns. That's why I reached out to friends in my life, and even Carrie Newhoff is like, okay, a couple of the books that were great resources I included in the message notes. We'll be talking about them a little later where they apply in the series, but it's like, you can't stay here. I knew I couldn't stay here. They helped me, Carrie Newhoff in particular helped me see that if nothing changed, here's where phase 3 leads you. Shut down, can't get out of bed, clinical, and very costly. Nobody wants to be here. Like nobody wakes up and says, yeah, I want to get so burnt out that I can't get out of bed and I can't function and I lose my job, my family, my future, my current, whatever. The question is, how do we get there? Here's what that passage teaches us. Like, it's amazing that 2,000 years ago they could describe, this letter was written to a group of people who were in a place they didn't want to be, feeling like that. And here is God's perspective. Here's how we get there. This is what the Lord says. Cursed are those who put their trust in mere humans, who rely on human strength and turn their hearts away from the Lord. Cursed, what is that? That's to invoke something that harms someone else. Cursed are those who try to do it on their own. Cursed are those who trust in human strength, your own capability, who turn your heart away from God. And what's interesting is God isn't necessarily cursing you. You are cursing yourself. Because, why? Like, well, how am I cursing myself? Because you're trying to be first. And God cannot be second. He can't. He is first. Otherwise, he's not God. And so what happens is when we start to resist that God is first and we insist on doing our way, we are pulling away from who God already is. We're pulling away from his goodness, from his grace, from his joy, from his hope, from the life that he intended for us. And we are cursing ourselves. Now, here's what's interesting. Nobody, like very few people that I've met want to give God the middle finger, right? Nobody wants to be like, oh, I want nothing to do with God. Most people believe in God, and even atheists aren't walking around going, I want to be as far away from God as possible. So how do we end up somewhere where nobody really wants to be? Well, God tells us in this passage, the human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? You and I, we all have a heart problem. Now, this is not a statement of your value. This isn't like, oh, God is saying you're despicable and not worthy of love. Time out. That's not true. God thought you were so worth loving to him, not because you did anything to deserve it, but because he just loved you so much that he sent his son to demonstrate that love for you. So this is not a statement of value. It's a statement of reality. It's God shining a little light saying, hey, here's what's true about you. You deceive yourself. What does it mean to deceive? It's to cause someone to believe something that isn't true. We struggle to see ourselves clearly, to evaluate our motives clearly, to understand why we react the way that we react. We defend ourselves. We cover over things. We exaggerate things. We don't know what we want, or when we think we want something, we don't know why. And so because of that, we end up copying what we see around us. We compare ourselves to others. We try to live a better life. And the reality is when we struggle and we don't get the better life, we don't want other people to know, so we pretend, we fake it, we hide it, we avoid it, and we end up burned out like a stunted shrub. So we try harder again, and maybe we just end up in the lazy river of life. And so how do we get out of this mess? It starts being honest. Okay, maybe that's me. And it starts by realizing that a shift needs to take place. Because blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. To be blessed is to be filled with God-defined benefits, not like living my best life. It's not American values. It's not our political party's values. It's not your personal preference values. There may be pieces of that, but blessed is when you're filled with what God says is good. It's you at your best. We're blessed when we trust. What does it mean to trust? It means to be surrendered to Him. And when we think of this passage, even when you hear it, here's how it translates in our brain. Blessed are those who obey God. Blessed are those who follow God's rules. Now, that's not what it's saying. This is really important because that's part of the problem. Our first thought is obey. And it's not that obey is bad, don't get me wrong, we'll talk about that. But the problem is you can obey God and not trust Him. How do I know? Because most of you obey your boss. I don't know you trust your boss. I don't know that you trust everything that you obey. See, God isn't interested in just your compliance or your robotic obedience. If He wanted that, He would have made us robots. What He wants is your heart. He wants your trust. You can obey God and not trust Him. You can obey God and not be surrendered to Him. But if you are surrendered to Him, if you trust Him, then you'll obey from a different heart, a different place of trust. Maybe that's the shift that needs to take place. See, ultimately, what God is saying is you are at your best when you trust God first. Like when He's your hope and your confidence. When He's where you find your value and your worth. And here's the thing, this is easy to say, right? A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I trust God, I'm a Christian, I follow God. I mean, shoot, last February, I knew this, I believe this, I preach this. And yet I found myself stuck and salty. And you may be sitting there going, but Ben, you work at church. Like, how did you end up there? Just because I'm aware of God doesn't mean that I'm surrendered to Him. Doesn't mean I'm trusting Him. What can happen is, just like, maybe you're better at this than I am, but you can start to pick up and start to hold on to things that you think are yours to control. You can start to do things out of your own strength, from your own, and your focus gets off. And it can happen to all of us, and it's not a shame on you. It's really about how quickly can you see it so that your focus gets back on the right place. Recently, there was an iPhone commercial. An iPhone commercial was the last place on the planet, maybe not the last place, but it wasn't in my top 10 of where I thought a powerful spiritual principle would be communicated that helps remind us of this tension of what this spiritual life is really all about. So I want you to watch it. Let's look at this.
Can I ask you a question? Am I out of focus?
You're fine.
Yeah, but I mean, look at me, I'm all blurry.
Well, you're supporting cast.
What?
The camera focuses on the most important character, which is me.
All right, freeze for a minute, all right? Do you see it? Here's the tension. We want to be the main character. We want the focus. We feel like being supporting cast is the worst. So what do? We fight for what we think is best. We fight for control. We fight for attention. We struggle to let God, to surrender to God, to be the main character. And we start thinking we're the main character of our life. We walk into church, we walk into work, we look at our email through the lens of us being the main character, and we feel all blurry and lost. And here's the thing, when we do that, we try dumb things. We try dumb things to get the attention back on us.
Well, what if my character had a big reveal?
Like what?
Like maybe I'm the killer.
Are you?
Yeah.
So funny.
No.
You're never going to see that commercial the same way again.
Could have been the killer.
And for some of you, God's going to use an iPhone commercial created to make people laugh and to make money as a spiritual reminder for you in the weeks and months ahead, potentially when you need it most. Like, who's the focus of your life been about? Is the Lord your hope and confidence? Because this passage reminds us that life is best. Blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. This is what God wants us to see. And sometimes we have a heart that deceives ourselves into believing that this is true, into believing that God actually knows what's best. And so what do? We push away from this and we go off on our own trying to do it our way, a way that makes sense to us, in a sphere that we can control, with the outcomes that we think make sense to us. And maybe it looks religious, and so you go to church and you try to obey and you do all of the things that you think good Christians are supposed to do, and when it doesn't turn out exactly the way that you wanted, you get angry with God because he didn't come through on his end of the deal, and either way, you're missing. You're missing God's blessing, and you're missing you at your best, because when you trust God first, here's the picture that God wants to paint. You're like a tree planted along a riverbank with roots that reach into the deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit. Key word here, it doesn't say consuming fruit. It says producing fruit. You ultimately at your best is a life of generosity, of producing life-giving resources, life to the people around you, not looking at all of the people that are going to give or produce back to you. This is you and me at our best. This is the life that God desires for you, the life that God wants to create in you and through you. When Jesus says he came to give a rich and satisfying life, this is the life that he was talking about. When Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, no one comes into the Father's kingdom except through me. Like, this is what Jesus wants to do. And so you may be asking the question, like, what does this mean practically? How do I live this out in my life? Within this passage are 4 areas, 4 places to look. We're going to be looking at them over the next 4 weeks. They are the 4 places that helped me get through what I was going through, and I think they're going to be helpful for you. The first key word is planted. You're like a tree planted along a riverbank. Planted is about the environment that you find yourself in. And it's really easy to look at all of the externals and go, well, these are all of the reasons why I'm bad. But the question is, what are you surrounding yourself with? What are you surrounded by? Because that matters. I needed to evaluate my own environment and make some changes there in order to help put me on the path to make me at my best. And so we're going to talk about that next week. The second thing that you see is that you have roots that reach, and where do they reach? Deep into the deep water. What are you reaching for? Another way that you could ask that is, what are you motivated by and why? Are you motivated by the right things? Are you reaching for the right things? Or are you just reaching for anything? I needed to evaluate that, and I think we all do if we're going to be at our best. When you do that, then such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. It doesn't say that there's never any heat and there's never any drought, that you'll never have any problems, that you won't have any stress in your life. No, it's that you're not bothered by them. What does it mean to be bothered by heat? Heat is like anger. Drought is like anxiety. And so you got to start asking the question, what bothers you? Like, what is it that makes you angry or anxious? And evaluate why. I needed to do that. Like, what is it that I'm getting all worked up about or anxious about? Because some of those things are things that you're trying to control that God never asked you to carry. But you're trying in your own human strength to fix, like I was. So maybe you need to surrender those. And when you do, what happens is you stay green. You never stop producing fruit. It's you at your best. That no matter what happens around you, God's doing something within you that produces life for you and the people around you. But the first step, this isn't like a to-do list to go home and start tackling today. No, today is, do you trust God first? Like where are you at right now? It's at some point you have to turn the focus fully to him. Like he is the main character. And he didn't have to have a supporting cast. He could have kept it all on him, but in his graciousness, he's invited us to all play a supporting role in the amazing work that he wants to do in our world today. The question is, are you trusting him first in the desires of your heart, in your relationships, in your time? Are you trusting him first financially? Or does he get the leftovers, right? Are you trusting him first, or are you trying to do it your own way? That's where I feel like God wants to do some work in me, and I think in us. You know, sometimes we have these grand ideas of what it looks like to do this, but I want to share with you Steve's story. We're going to be looking at it over the next few weeks. And I want you to see how potentially simple, maybe not always easy, but simple these steps are when we start listening to where God is inviting us to go as we trust him. Let's watch.
So I originally come from England. I actually went to a Christian school when I was younger. But I think from a faith perspective, I was not a regular churchgoer. School is a little bit different in England. I went through my, what we would call here, high school years, and I actually left high school at 15 and joined straight away into the work environment. And I actually joined a tire company. And that really was to start me on a journey that I've been very blessed to go along. You know, I started off working in very low-level roles, and then really progressed to leadership roles in sales and marketing and strategic planning. And really what that's given me is the opportunity to travel the world. And it culminated in 2003 with me having the opportunity to take an overseas assignment. My company had been previously bought by Cooper Tire in Findlay, Ohio. And I was given an opportunity to come over to Findlay originally for 3 years. And that was back in 2003. And as you can see, I'm still here. The value and the cultural values of Northwest Ohio was something that, you know, we were very thankful for and very welcoming. What we also found was there was a lot more faith, a lot more Christianity within America than we had previously in England. So I still was not a regular churchgoer when I came to Ohio, but what we did start to do as a family is each year at Christmas, we would go to a church. And perhaps the big step change for me in my journey was 5 years ago, we had an invite from a family friend to go to a church service. And so it was my annual visit to church. But this time, the invite was to Cedar Creek. Never been there before, but straight away when I walked in and was greeted, you felt that you mattered. And there was some meaning. And definitely by the end of the service, it was a very memorable experience. And I remember sat in my seat thinking, I can apply this in my everyday life. You know, there was a feeling, wow, in terms of, man, I think this is different, and I think this is calling me to come back. The first week in January, I came back to Cedar Creek, and for the period of the next 2 years, I was the type of guy that you probably wouldn't know, because I would walk in, I would sit at the back and listen to the message, and then as soon as the service ended, I was probably a little bit like an Olympic sprinter. I was the guy that ran more or less straight out of the campus. But really, when the message just kept resonating with me over the period of time, it was interesting. I found myself using elements of the message in my work environment. I always remember Ben one week talking about root cause analysis, which to me was really funny, but I was thinking, he actually described that better than a business book. So I actually used that in solving a problem in the work environment the following week. And so it was really just, the message just kept resonating with me. And I was using it in my work life, my personal life. my family life, and it really started the momentum really started to snowball. And again, Christmas was another defining moment for me. And I was driving back to work the first day after the break. And again, working for Cooper, I was driving towards the facility, and I saw the usual sight of the smoke coming out of the chimneys. It was just perhaps a surreal moment. I just got this feeling that there's got to be more to life than this. I'm missing something. By now, my kids had really moved out of the house, and I was just thinking as I was driving, most of my close friends were really Cooper acquaintances or Cooper colleagues. I was thinking, I'm gonna look at the groups directory on Cedar Creek, and maybe that's something that I need to take that next step of doing is open myself up to knowing some different people. The calling was actually given to me and directed me straight to a place which actually just seemed like it was designed for me.
I don't know if you noticed it, but Steve's story is amazing in the fact that he was just surrendered. Okay, God, what's the next step that you want me to take? And at some point he was just listening to okay, maybe it's just to come back. Maybe it's to come back a second time. Maybe it's to linger a little longer than just run out. Maybe it's to join a group. Maybe it's to invite someone. You're going to hear what a surrendered heart looks like. And so today's not a magic pill. I'm not telling you that if you trust in God, blessings are going to fall down like Benjamins and umbrella drinks, okay? It's going to be great, right? No, today is a starting line. And maybe you're finding your way back to that same starting line. God isn't exhausted by you. He's just saying, hey, will you trust me first in the desires of your heart? God's inviting you to trust him first in your relationships and in your time, in the way that you operate throughout your day. And when you get it wrong, just come back and go, okay, God, I'm going to trust you again. He's inviting you to trust him first in your finances and see what he can do in your life, right? So I want to give you a couple minutes to respond to God, because I believe in this space, wherever you're watching, God's Spirit shows up to speak. Now, maybe you're sitting there going, I'm not really sure where to start. Never really done this before. This is all so new. And if you can't think of a time when you've surrendered, you've taken that first step of faith towards God, I want to invite you to do that right now. And I want to use the two verses that we looked at as the ingredients for the prayer that I'm going to invite you into. Cursed are those who put their trust in mere humans, who rely on human strength and turn their hearts away from the Lord. But blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. If you can't think of a time, just use these verses to have a defining moment with God right where you sit, wherever you're watching. And if you need words, say these in the quietness of your heart right now. Say, God, today I realize the truth that I've been trusting myself. I've been turned away from you, that I'm on a cursed path. So today I want to make you first in my life. I want to trust you. I want to make you my hope and confidence. And I believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life that will lead to the blessing that you have for me. Make that your prayer right now. If that's your first time, today's a spiritual birthday, January 9th, 2022. It's a great way to start this life-changing adventure with him, and we have a whole movement of people that are different parts on this journey who would love to cheer you on and help you. We want to give you all of you some time to respond and hear from God. But one thing that I would love for all of you to consider, wherever you're at, we have found that a profound way to start every year is through 21 days of prayer and fasting. 21 days of intentional daily prayer, which I will be doing online Monday through Friday at 7:30 on our social media platforms and on our app. You can join us and just have that prayer moment. It's also spiritually focused fasting, not like fad fasting where it's dry January, just trying to lose some weight or trying to save some money. It's intentionally saying no to some things that aren't bad so that you can say a more focused yes. You add things to your life to hear from God for 21 days to start your year remembering God is first. And so if you want to join us, we've actually created a text campaign where if you text 21 days to 419-419, you can get out your phone right now and do this, 21 days to 419-419-0707, we will prompt you every day in the morning with the daily prayer prompt, some encouragement along the way, just for 21 days. And you can join us. It's our way of taking what you want to do and trying to make it easier for you. So would you do that? Come back next week. Listen for what God may want to say. Listen over the next couple of minutes. So let's take a moment now to go, okay, God isn't waiting for you to get your life figured out. He isn't exhausted by you or disappointed with what has happened. He's excited to meet you where you are right now. Say, let's start the year together, so come to him. He is capable to help. He is wild about your heart. So ready or not, will you step towards him today?
He's still faithful to deliver, mighty is ever to save. He's still good on his promises, and his love still never fails. He's not moved by perfection or how well we look the part, but he's wild about the hidden stuff, like he's wild about the heart. So come now, for all we've seen, we ain't seen nothing yet. Are you ready? Are you ready? And come now, bring him praise for what he might do next. Are you ready? Are you ready or not? He's already bought our freedom. He's already paid our debt. He's already done the miracle. He's already conquered death. He's a light and salvation. He's a rock solid hope. He's already done enough for us. He's already doing more. He's already seen the ending. He's already seen us through. He's already breaking down in us. He's already on the move. He's already won our battles. He's already paved the way. He's already gone ahead of us. He's ready when we ask. Now, for all we've seen, we ain't seen nothing yet. Are you ready? Are you ready? And come now and bring him praise for what he's gonna do next. Are you ready? Are you ready or not? Come.
Well, I love the reminder that we can be at our best when we trust God first. And so coming up, we have the perfect opportunity to live out trusting God first through the 21 days of prayer and fasting. That begins this Monday, and I know Ben talked about it a little bit. And so for all the resources available to you, you can go online to cedarcreek.tv/21days or text the words 21 days to 419-419-0707. Also starting on Monday, this Monday, we have prayer night. And so if you've never been to a prayer night before, it's a night full of, yes, prayer, but also worship and celebration and connection. So it's a night you do not want to miss out on. So make sure you make plans to be here Monday night here at the Perrysburg campus from 7 to 8 p.m. for prayer night. Another way that we can be at our best in the year of 2022 is by joining a life-giving group. And so if you've never been a part of a group experience before, I would love to invite you into that. our group directory is now open, and so you can join a group today by going online to cedarcreek.tv/groups or text the word groups to, here's that phone number again, 419-419-0707. As always, if you need prayer following the service, we have a prayer team who meets by the cross down to my left who would love to pray for you no matter what's going on in your lives. Thanks for being here. You matter to God and you matter to us. We'll see you back here next weekend and on social media this week.